Psychotechnologies live. Woo! Welcome to a very special episode.
I feel like we say that every time.
I think every time is a special episode.
I agree, but do we say that every time in a genuine way or in a like?
It feels special to me.
Oh, okay. That's
Like
good.
we sat together and we put some thought into it and we thought about what is it that we want to do.
Nice.
And present and I prepared the situation.
I cleared my entire calendar for this event.
Yeah, set up my environment. I changed the lighting, the sound. I don't do this for just everyone.
Nice. Cool. Okay. Today our topic is addiction. And I don't work in a like professional, like there's a lot of organizations that will hire a therapeutic person to work with people. I don't work in one of those. And so I've never had the chance to just sit in front of a whole bunch of people with the same condition or a whole bunch of people having addiction at all. Because I work individually, because I work one-on-one with people. So I probably don't have the best internal working models of what's going on in addiction, but I do have a whole bunch.
I'd like to learn about this because I may be involved in addiction measures and stuff like that.
When you say addiction measures, do you mean trying to get people addicted to things or?
No, measuring addiction,
right.
Measuring people in their addiction.
Right.
And I don't know very much about it, so I'd like to learn.
So I think the first place I would start is clinical relevance, which is something like, this applies to all sorts of conditions that we can pathologize. But it basically comes down to, is that thing a problem? Which is, if someone, my classic example is with sleep. If someone's sleeping in and then staying up till 3 a.m. and then sleeping in and they just, work late and get their job done and their work has flexible hours, they may just have made a life the way it really works. It may not be a problem that they have a bit of insomnia and so they have this weird sleep schedule. However, if suddenly in their life, their boss is like, you have to make the 9 a.m. meeting, and they're like, oh, I can't, I'm asleep, and they're ashamed and they're guilty and they're this and they're that, and they can't seem to move their sleep schedule. Suddenly it has clinical relevance because their lifestyle, the way they're sleeping is in conflict with the world and what the world wants from them. So that's a big question to ask of any condition. Like, let's say you do a bit of cocaine out on the weekends with your friends when you party, and then you're fully functional during the week. You're burning through a bunch of money, but other than that, you really don't have that much. You're not unhealthy, you're not unfit, you're not a problem person. You just like to have fun in this particular way. Is that a problem? Well, and importantly, not just is someone in your life complaining to you about it, but like, do you think it's a problem? Because if you don't think it's a problem, first of all, it's going to be like, I'm going to question why we're working on it. And second of all, it's going to be really hard to convince you to treat it and act differently if you don't think there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing I would ask about addiction is a problem? Or is this instance of you being addicted to this thing a problem? And there could be a time in your life where you're addicted to video games and it's fine. And another time in your life where you're addicted to video games when it's not. So it's a real, it's got to be nuanced of is this a problem for you today or now or recently, or is it about to become a problem because you're addicted to video games and you're about to start a job? Big question, is it a problem? And
is it interfering or is it like filling up space?
Right. Those are problem concepts. Like if it's interfering with your life, that's a problem concept. If it's filling up space, that's a problem concept. Or if it's just filling up space and you're like, oh, I have lots of free time and so I do this in it and it's fun, maybe that's not a problem. As soon as you're like, oh, I want to do other things with my life, then it's a problem.
So yeah, something that's coming to me is addiction versus like other things. So like an addiction meaning like it's display it's interfering with things that you want to do versus maybe it's like unhealthy behavior. So like let's say porn is like a very classic example where
Mm.
maybe it's not like you can still go to work or whatever, but if you're spending hours and hours looking at porn and then that's having a detrimental effect on you, you might not be like addicted in this in the way that you're describing addiction, but it's still like you shouldn't be, I don't know, not that I'm telling people what to do, but
Mm.
like it's filling up a lot of time and then that has, let's say, other like sexual health impacts on you.
Yeah, like what if you're in high school but you're really bored and you hate your classwork and you have no friends in high school, and so you've sort of picked up a porn habit and a video game habit to amuse yourself.
Or magic cards, yeah.
Yeah, or
I'm just
whatever.
relating. Yeah,
This is your life. And then you leave high school and then it all falls away. Like, because you got
yeah,
better things to do once you're out of the high school system. But in the high school system, you sort of got stuck in this bad trap because you were in an environment that you really didn't want to deal with. Like, okay, was it an addiction? Kinda, but it was situational and it went away as soon as you found something better to do.
yeah. And I think there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of things that are, I don't know if it's like, I guess, technical addiction, but like things that we call addiction that
Mm.
I like. I know from my life, like video games, for instance, I was like super into video games, and then my life got filled with things.
Mm.
Now, even I have spare time, and video games are just not interesting to me.
Mhm.
They feel like a chore,
Right. Okay.
and so I just like kind of stopped playing them.
Wow.
I imagine I'll come back later at some point, but
Yeah, I've definitely found myself like I was a teenager, I was a nerd, I played video games, and then it just I drifted away from it. Um, yep,
the magic's gone because I
there's
guess
other
it
things to
for the
do.
rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's good. Congratulations on not even having to treat that thing.
yeah, thanks. That's what I suspected the whole time because I did play a lot of video games, and I'm like, I really did think that I wasn't addicted and I was just doing it because that was actually like a healthy behavior that I could do at that time.
Right. Well, there's a
Yeah.
good question there of like, what's it like on the inside of the experience? So you described that in this case, it was like it felt like it was just something to fill your time, or it was something that you were doing because you could. Right.
This is like a thing. Like I think like I don't share a lot because I find that like people are always judgmental about it, but like I really do find video games meaningful.
Hmm.
Or
No.
let's say I'm more used to a little bit less now.
It
But
may be like some games or particular parts of games, or like you do get accomplishment and you do try and complete a task, and then you
yeah,
get.
like you learn like I play a lot of like system kind of games, so I learn systems and I get good at them. And if you're playing like, and then I also play a little bit of like first person shooter or like reflex kind of games, and that's like practicing reflexes.
Mhm. Hmm. And it feels meaningful, and so it feels like you want to go back there. If it didn't feel meaningful, you'd probably drop it a lot quicker. It's also that games are designed to invest in meaningfulness.
Yeah, it's not that the video game is really meaningful. Like that one I kind of try to play because sometimes the video game takes on meaning. And I'm
Mm.
like, no, 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 the video game's not meaningful. My experience or like what's going on while I'm doing it is meaningful. Like I'm meaningful. And if I'm there, then the experience is meaningful.
Mm.
And so like, we talk about Crusader Kings every once in a while.
Mm.
And so like that was very meaningful, but like I don't think I've ever finished a game, and I have a bunch of save files that I keep, but I don't like I'm not gonna go back to it.
Mm.
Or maybe I will, I don't know. But it's like a maybe I will for years and years and years, right?
Mm.
It's not about the game, it's about the experience of what you're doing or like the change that I go through while I play the game.
Mm. Nice.
And that's really meaningful.
Hmm.
And the thing I really like about games is that it keeps you at like good games, they keep you at your learning edge. So like they keep you in a place where, and like you have to work at it to like find like the place where you can, your zone of proximal development of where you can play it, and it's hard, but it's not impossible and it's not easy.
Right.
And then it keeps you like the right amount of stimulus. And good games can do that for a long time.
So I'm here sitting here thinking like, oh, if Daniel were still addicted to a game right now and this was his justification, I'd have a hard time convincing him to like.
Right. That's why I never told anyone this.
Yeah.
Like I never tell people this because it sounds like bullshit. But now that I'm not playing games anymore, I feel like I can say this.
Right. But this is part of the problem. You can't. It is very difficult to convince someone to change from the outside. They have to kind of want to, if you wanted to drop that addiction, which obviously you now have, then we could work with it. But without wanting to drop it, you're like having a great time, you're learning some meaning making, you're changing as you and growing, you're at your zone of proximal development. These are awesome things.
Yeah. I think for that, like it's like keeping the priorities straight. So like the video games don't displace things. Even though it looks like it does sometimes. But like as I'm getting like healthier and working through stuff, I'm like, oh no, I'm overwhelmed and I can't do certain things. And so it's interesting because now even I get overwhelmed and my instinct just go play a video game, and then like I pull it up and it's just annoying. Like I don't want, like, oh, this game is making me do all this stuff. Like,
oh, that's interesting. I mean, I wonder about the addicted to our feeds, the Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, the feeds.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm starting to come out of that too. I'm still into the YouTube because it feels like the culture war feels meaningful. And there's like a lot of interesting stuff. Like I do, like a lot of stuff I follow is like, I do mostly watch informational videos. But it's not really necessarily relevant information to my life. It's just sort of general stuff that makes me feel good.
I think there was a time in my life where I was addicted to drama, which is the interpersonal drama of the people around me, particularly. And it was only eventually I got to a point where I could notice. Oh, I think there were two things. One is I got to a particularly bad one. And the other thing is that I didn't have much else going on at the time, which enabled me to see really clearly, oh, the only reason this particularly bad one that had sucked me in was in my life was because I was incentivizing the drama to be there.
Yeah.
And it was my oversights that kind of like let it happen. And actually for that one, I had to do a bunch of journaling to like, there was like 20 different problems that were like mostly caused by my willingness to let the drama play out more. And like I could have cut this in the bud many times, this particular drama that I was stuck with. And it was
like you wanted to see that, like,
well,
grow.
part of me wanted to see what was going to happen with this drama. And that journaling sort of helped me go like, oh, I set myself up for this one. And that's, for me, for that addiction, what really did it was noticing how bad it was and how much I was not enjoying it and reflecting on that. And as I did that, this is sort of my proposal of working with addiction. The person who is addicted needs to want to change their addiction from inside the experience, which is that taking the model that we're made up of a whole bunch of subminds, right? There's the me who wants to go exercise. There's me who wants to laze around on the couch. We can't actually get the me who wants, if I just get like a slave driver and I get the slave driver to make me exercise, then I'm going to get home and laze around on the couch a whole bunch more. What I actually need to do is motivate me who's on the couch in order to go running, or to like be done with being on the couch, in order to get that self-intrinsic motive of going for a run. right? I can't, if I do it with slave driver, then I'm going to be like, well, I did it, but that was slave driving and I didn't like it so much. I got to get that intrinsic motivation be in me and behind me rather than dragging me.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's not going to
This
stick.
is interesting. I have another fork that I want to go down, but let's explore this one first.
Right.
So I like what you're saying about the slave driver and the intrinsic motivation and the multiple cells.
Right. So the problem is that if I let's pick a different example. Like for nearly every addiction, there's a good thing about it. It's like the video games, they are fun and meaningful. And the only way I can get, if I was like, Daniel, no more computer time. I don't actually resolve the desire to get
That's been
meaningful.
tried before.
Right.
Like, fuck.
Been tried by every parent. Right. It doesn't quite work. What does work is like, hey, Daniel, let's try and find more meaningful things than video games. If the meaning story that you gave me is the main cause of the addiction, then we need to find your meaning elsewhere. How does that sound?
I'm using meaning, I think, a little bit as a proxy, maybe not exactly meaning,
Sure.
but for something that is meaningful, I guess. But like not necessarily generic something, but whatever, right?
Right. So whatever that thing is that you're getting from the video games, we need to make sure you can get it maybe in a what we're proposing in this society is a healthier way, maybe by going out, exploring nature or something would be healthier. And I don't know.
Yeah, I've actually been doing that a lot because it's nice now in Toronto.
Nice weather. Yeah.
And I can finally leave my house and there's no COVID restrictions anymore, so I don't have to deal with that.
Nice.
And my kid goes crazy if he stays in the house for too long.
Yeah, well, it's amazing that adults don't do that too. I think we probably do. We just pretend.
We do go crazy. We're just good at repressing it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so we go for a lot of walks, try to give him something to, because yeah, like he needs something, like I think it gives him like this is how I imagine it, like it gives him motivation and like aspirations when he goes to the park and he sees kids running around and playing on things. And
He's
like
not
he
quite
can't,
old enough to run yet. He's a little short,
Yeah.
a little. Right.
Yeah.
But that'll be coming soon now that he's seen what's possible.
Yeah. I mean, he's able to pull himself up, and then he can sometimes move along an object, like he can kind of hand over hand sort of situation. Not fully good at it yet, but he's getting there. He's a lot better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not supposed to happen too much later. He's actually really ahead of him on his development.
Well, you said an interesting word in there. You said aspirations.
Yeah.
And I say it's interesting because this is important for the entire field of motivating people, particularly if they're addicted, is they need to know that something better is available, possible, optional. Yeah. Like if you only played video games and you had never gotten out and you were like, this is fine. You may not want to get out because you don't actually know what's possible. Yeah. So there needs to be some of like you need to know what's possible and know what you can go to before you can go to them. And as a professional working with someone, I can ask them what their aspirations are, but they may still say, I don't know.
Yeah, because they might not have aspirations.
Right.
I didn't really have like good aspirations.
Right. And so for that, I would say, hey, maybe you want to explore. Or, maybe you're not tired of the addiction yet, tired enough. And obviously, by the time someone's coming to see a professional, they're getting a little tired. They're like, I'm kind of sick of it. But if they're not ready to give it up, I would say, okay, just go away and just watch yourself this week and notice how the addiction isn't serving you. If it isn't, notice how it's getting in the way of the rest of your life. Notice how, are you tired of it? And hopefully they'll come back with the answer of yes. And they would like to do something different, but they don't know what else is out there. And great,
Yeah.
then we can, and then I would say, great, now you need to explore the options before you decide what's cool. And that may be like go in nature, maybe like try look at hobbies, it may be like ask your friends what they do, it may be all sorts of things in order to explore a couple of YouTube videos that'll give you good ideas. And then you'll have a good aspiration to move towards.
Yeah, or leave the house and,
Right.
and hang out with people.
Right. Leave the house, hang out with people is a good one. Yep.
Yeah. Dare to dream.
Dare to dream.
And then and yeah, like dare to dream. And like for me, I think a big part of this is like dreaming and then trying to fulfill the dreams. And like I don't know how realistic it is. But it's like better than not doing it.
Like we need to start a sub segment of like Daniel's pep talks. Dare to
Yeah. I'm very like utilitarian when it comes to this. It's like I'm not going to deceive like, you know, I don't deceive myself, I don't deceive others. I'm like, dream, chase your dreams, and if you dream big, you'll probably fail, but it's probably better than not doing that.
But at least you went on the spiritual journey of going after what you want. And you know, maybe a couple of cycles into dare to dream and then go towards it, you'll be closer to it.
Yeah, you're closer to it for sure. Yeah. And another thing is this is like I got from Peterson is like when you pick like he does like the North Star analogy. So when you pick something really far away, and like I think Elon Musk does this with like colonizing Mars, is like there's a lot of stuff you gotta do along the way. And any big dream, like most of the steps are actually going to be the same. Right? Like whatever big dream you like, whatever dream you have, like whether it's to go to Mars or live under the ocean or be the best ping pong player, like whatever it is, like you gotta get, you know, like the first step is get your shit together. And that's true for everything. And like these things can give you real motivation. And then you get your shit together, and as you're getting your shit together, you're like, oh, some of the stuff is unrealistic, you know, whatever your dream, you know, and then you calibrate and you pick more realistic dreams, like, oh, the North Star actually isn't there, it's, you know, somewhere else because the light comes through and gets bended by gravity and all these things. And also it's really far away and doesn't exist anymore because it's, you know, actually a star that is burnt out. But, you know, there's other cool shit in space that you can find and do stuff with. Or not, like, or even like you go around the earth and, you know, he's doing Starlink, not to rant too much, but like, you know what I mean? Like he's doing Starlink as like a sort of halfway point because he needs to raise money. So he's giving the whole world internet. Yeah. Other one is find people to look up to, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, this is so I think we might have like sidelined you a little bit.
No,
but this is like the other fork that I was talking about. So there's like the addiction, and there's dealing with the addiction, and then there's the other side of like becoming a stronger person and having more weight and more momentum in your life. And then the addictions get smaller relative to what else is going on. So I think for a lot of people, like the addictions are big and insurmountable. And like they might be, but if you work out and you like, you know,
the person you are right now.
Yeah, for the person you are right now. And so if you get good and get stronger and bigger and like become a bigger person, those things get smaller. And they don't really get smaller. They just get relatively smaller. And you get better at dealing with stuff. This is how I see it as a person that I don't think I've ever really had, like, not really had addiction. And
Oh, you had the video game thing.
Yeah, but that was a lot of like, that was like, I think more symptoms of depression than
Mm.
addiction per se. Because like I never did video games at the expense of like going to work or something.
I had the addiction to drama, and it's not super clear to me how long I had it in my life before. Like it could have been 10 years or more. And it was very subtle. Like it would be easy to explain away most of my addiction to drama with other patterns that I was doing or other habits.
Mhm.
Um,
What's that like being addicted to drama? I'm curious about this.
so I guess I only really noticed it right at the end when I was like, oh, this has to change. But it's like, um, it, it's a subtle attraction, right? It's not like um, a concrete attraction might be like, I want the taste of this thing, right? Or I want to feel a certain way. This is like, for me, there was like a fascination. Like my attention is drawn to these dramatic things. Like I want to look at the thing that is the clusterfuck of drama of someone's life. Like I want to really like pay attention to it. And I'd say it was kind of like an immature fascination. Like if I was really interested in a thing, I could just be interested in it. But this was
Yeah.
like a attracted fascination. Like I am
It's like
attracted to.
are you attracted?
Say
Like
again.
attracted like you would be to like
Like a bug drawn to light. Like I didn't know why I was going there, but I was like wanted to move there. And so I wanted to be close enough that I wanted to be watching the drama. And part of I think there's a healthy piece in there of being very vigilant of drama. Like if there is real drama in my life, I want to be vigilant of it because I want to see it coming before it hits me. And so there's a healthy side to it. But there was more, I had more than that. I was like, oh, I'm not just watching it or keeping an eye on it. I'm like drawn to it and maybe like getting involved in it a little bit. Because the healthy side
like in
there,
ways you know you shouldn't.
well, the healthy bit is if I get involved, maybe I can diffuse the drama. But
Right.
the last one that I dealt with, it was, first of all, it was not mine to defuse. And second of all, there was a way in which it was starting to enter my life as well by moving closer to the drama and starting
Yeah.
to poison other bits of my life.
Yeah, drama does that.
Right.
But it's like also interesting and cool shit happens and you learn.
Right. Well, I learned that I didn't want to be living a stupidly dramatic life.
Good. Yeah.
Instead, I wanted to be, and then that was the really interesting thing. So I sort of, the drama happened, and then I like reflected on the drama that day or the next day. Like it was probably in my life for a week or two, and then I reflected on it. I was like, what the heck has gone wrong here? And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I can see how it's my interest in leaning into the like moving closer to the drama that has caused a lot more of this whole mess. Like there might have been a little bit of mess, but it wouldn't have been my problem. And then I was like, oh, I need to not do that. And for me, it went all the way down to like a very subtle way in which I was putting my attention was drawn to emotional drama. Like I was incentivizing emotions in my environment by the way I was paying attention to them. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I need to just not do that. So I started not doing that. And I had such a boring day. Like there was like a flatness to the world as soon as I was like, nope, not going to go there for like any emotional interest for that day. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I guess forevermore,
Yeah.
forevermore, I'm just going to be not, I'm not going to bite the bait on emotional stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was this incredibly boring. It was like
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
timeless.
It's like the opposite of aliveness. Kind
Right.
of.
Everything
Yeah.
was flat. Everything was dead, but everything was fine. I was like, oh, I would rather this than how bad drama can get.
Yeah.
And I was like, part of my system resisted it. And I spent a whole day being bored. And my poor partner was like, are you okay? And I was like, it's fine.
Dude, and then life has this flatness, and then it
Right.
becomes with living.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I waited with it, and I got to the end of the day. I'm big time meditator, so I can do the thing where I just wait with it for ages. Got to the end of the day, and then it cleared. And then the boredom cleared, and there was just this fascinating peacefulness to reality. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So, and everything was fine. And I was not addicted to drama, but I got over my drama addiction, and everything like became more alive again, but not in a addicted way, just in a like, it's fine that things are like this. But
Yeah.
I had to sit through it. That was a fascinating day of my life. How boring it was, and a boring day of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was like a sacrifice. Like you sacrifice almost like that aliveness of that day to, I guess,
Kind of.
exit samsara.
Right. Right. Exit a particular type of suffering,
Yeah.
of being suffering, the suffering that is caused by drama and being addicted to drama in my life. So I made my peace with it, and now I can move in and out of drama without a problem. Like I can see when I'm leaning into drama, and in fact, I can sit in the same room as drama, and it's not my drama, and which makes it really easy for me to be present to working with other people and their drama. That I can just be there. I can just be
You
like,
feel
oh,
like slippery or smooth, like it doesn't stick.
um, yeah, I definitely like. I walk out of the room and it like drains away. This is I say this from time to time, but I'm fairly sensitive in the body. And so if I sit with someone, I kind of feel how they're feeling. If that's anger, if that's sadness, if that's discomfort, if it's pain, I don't quite get yet, but I think one day I'll start just feeling the pain that other people feel just by being present to them. And then um, as soon as I leave, it like drains away. But for emotional drama at the time, it was kind of sticking with me. It wasn't draining away. And so, and then after that, it just like it drains away very easily. There's this question to therapists: how do you deal with picking up people's emotional baggage all day? And the bad way to deal with it is to burn out after a couple of months. The good way is to like,
You know how many people I see do that. It's not
right,
months, it usually lasts a couple of years, but
right,
like you can see the way they're doing that. You're like, you're not gonna last.
right.
Oh, sorry. I was just I
Yeah,
was
no,
just
right.
amplifying your point.
Just writing it down to like, oh yeah, this is an interesting point.
Yeah.
Right. But if drama doesn't stick to me, I'm like, cool, it's here. And then I'm like, cool, it's gone. But I had to like deal with my own attachment to drama before I could get that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely know what you mean. I've been like working on that as well. I don't have it like extremes. For me, I think it's pretty iterative.
Right.
And
I mean, I'm describing a very subtle attention pattern that I managed to work out how to make peace with.
mhm.
And it was like I described, there was this fascination with drama, and then this method of like going to the inside of it, like noticing that I am fascinated with drama and noticing that I am causing myself part of the problem because I'm so fascinating with drama, and then like getting tired of it, like being like, oh, I can feel how tiring this has been for me to chase drama all this time, and
Yeah.
how it's not really serving me from the inside of that, right? And it has to be real, it has to be genuine. And I had just had this drama experience happen to me, and in order for me to go like, ugh, I don't want more of this. And then I was like, well, I guess I have to say goodbye to this attachment to drama. And that's when the boredom hit me for the whole day. And I was like, oh, maybe I could lean back into drama. And then I was like, no, I don't want more of that.
No,
So
we're not going there. We're going through this desert of meaninglessness to get to the other
right,
side.
right. And I wasn't sure if there was another side, but
Yeah.
like, what if I'm bored for it? This is what the mind will do when working through
Well, you'll break that way, and then you'll something will happen. Or
Well,
like you can break either way if you take on too much drama, or if your life like too much of the addiction or whatever.
right. You can go
The
back
other way of not like people. Some people go the other way where they live meaningless lives,
in.
and then you break at a certain point
Mm,
because there's just no point.
mm. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I got to the end of the day, and then meaning formed around other things.
Yeah,
Like I got other interests, or I
yeah,
returned to the rest of the world that was still could amuse me, but I was no
yeah,
longer in my drama hook.
yeah. That's a serious technique.
Mm. So
Yeah,
I'd say the same for addiction. So if you're playing the video games, go away for a week and notice how they seem to they don't help you. They seem to take you away from life. They seem to be getting tiring and boring. You're just watching yourself play, and like from within that, you need to notice. Like I am, as I sit here play this video game, I am dying. Like I'm literally old age is forming on my face,
yeah. That's a
and
big
I
thing.
don't want this.
Yeah, I'm noticing that every second I spend is like I'm dying. Like that's a second of life that has been spent.
Mm,
And so there's a certain panic I think people get, and also myself, for that. But like sort of like I don't know, like figuring out a way to like ramp it up. Like like for me it was like accept that this is the best I'm doing and like this is
mm,
it.
mm,
So like okay, I'm stuck here, so I'm just gonna enjoy it.
mm,
Like what else am I gonna do? Like just be miserable about it?
mm. Right.
Like
So
that
if you are stuck there, then that's just life. And if you're not stuck there, then let's do something else.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. There's also a thing like enjoying the stuff. I find like even if I'm in a compulsion, if I'm doing something that let's say my big self is like, no, um, even enjoying it, like even enjoying it. I found this for pot, this is really helpful. We're like getting really nuanced about the highs and everything and like really enjoying it lets like it makes it less binary and more nuanced. So like it's kind of like so then I kind of went more often but less amount, and now it's like whatever.
mm,
Now it's more social.
mm. Right. That's the interesting thing about weed. And it's not a chemical addiction like in the same way that nicotine is,
Yeah,
but people still get kind of attached to it for
people
extended
get addicted to
time.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And well, something's going on there if people
It's
still
not a physical. Like I don't think there's not usually withdrawals
right.
sometimes, or the classic withdrawal symptoms.
Well, there could be like if someone's resolving their anxiety by filling it with weed, um, and then they cut the weed, then the anxiety will come back. Was that withdrawal? I don't know.
Right. That's another one is people use it for treatment. And I
Right.
also do sometimes like if the anxiety is like in a way,
Mhm.
I'll use it. Um, but whatever, like it's better, like that's a thing, like especially if you like you're self-medicating, like enjoying it, like enjoying things makes you less anxious.
Mm,
Um, at least over time.
mm,
Even if you get anxious at it, like even if enjoying things is what makes you anxious, like still like being present, enjoying it or feeling satisfied or
mm,
whatever the other genres, like you're like that releases it. It releases its hold on you.
mm,
And then also with the medication, like if you're doing it, if you're able to notice the subtleties and like pay attention, then you can get the dose right. And this is the thing, like people like some people though, like some people are like good with the dose, but some people they just like smoke a lot to deal with the anxiety. And and then like they're kind of in denial about that they're using it as medication. And I
mm,
find like if you just like if you accept why you're doing it, it doesn't have to be right or not, but like this is what's happening and this is what is. like paying attention to like noticing the high, and or like taking a little bit, seeing what happens, taking a little bit, seeing what happens. Like, I think it's called titrating.
Mm.
You can nuance it out more, and then you're using the actual right dose, and then it's actual, like the medicine works much better.
Look, I'm pretty suspicious of my own brain when it's like, oh, let's just titrate it out. We could have a lot of weed if we do this titration experiment. I'm pretty suspicious of my own
Yeah,
brain in its ability to be smart and convince me to do things.
yeah.
But
I'm,
also,
I'm
there's something good in there in the titration.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. Like in the case where you're already doing it,
Mm.
these things are really helpful. I think for people like just starting, I don't know your situation, so I don't know what you should do.
Mm. Well, I tend to agree with the sentiment of investigate. So you are having some kind of phenomena, investigate. Since you, like you said, you're already on the weed, you're already playing the video games. Maybe you should investigate. Like, and what does investigate mean? It means like if you imagine an old school detective with a big magnifying glass, like here's my big magnifying glass, and like staring at the thing. That's investigate. But it's not just a lame magnifying glass. It's like, look at what you're doing, pay attention to it, add it like a little bit of mindfulness, and go like, huh, what's going on
Yeah.
here? And
Yeah,
then
like be curious.
right,
Like don't be just shaming yourself. Be curious.
right.
If you're just shaming yourself as just a taskmaster, and honestly, if he was good at his job, then you wouldn't be here. So
Right.
maybe it's someone else to start looking and seeing what's going on.
Right. So I would say investigate internal and external. What's going on inside your body, inside your mind when doing the thing? What's going on outside? Like, is someone nagging you or something? When you're suddenly like, oh, I want to like go smoke weed.
Mhm.
Is your homework due? And the more homework that's due, the more you want to smoke weed. Like, is that happening external? Or
Yeah.
and
And
then what's
that's,
going on internal? What's the story you're telling about the external phenomena? Like, oh, I have so much to do. Oh, I have so much to do.
yeah. I do find, yeah, I do find, I know for myself, and I think other people that I've done this with, when they find out why they're doing it, they think that now because they know it, they can immediately stop. And like sometimes that's the case, and if you can go for it, but a lot of times it's not. You just know it, and now you're like kind of on this roller coaster that you can't do anything
Right.
about.
So I would say like it only takes a couple more trips around the roller coaster from like, oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm avoiding my anxiety about homework when I smoke the weed.
Right.
And then I watch myself again and I'm like, oh, I'm only anxious about the homework because I keep telling myself that I'm bad at my class. Like next trip around, it's like, oh, I'm telling myself that because when I was in third grade,
Yeah.
the thing
Because my
happened.
parents told me that I was bad.
So each trip around the mountain is like bringing more detail to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
But that doesn't, yeah. And it's good to do that. And it's good to notice it. And it's good to like deal with root causes. And also, you're not necessarily going to be able to solve your childhood trauma in like one session.
no. You got to go around the mountain a bunch of times. In
Yeah.
fact, there's something to be said for going around the mountain quicker, like doing the loop faster, which is something like feeling the weight of your suffering to heightened depths.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm only smoking weed because I'm worried or anxious about my homework. Wow, I feel really anxious. Oh, I'm only anxious because, like, by amplifying the suffering, we can actually get to the root cause much quicker if I have the capacity to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to push back on the word only, because we're complicated ecosystems, I would say. It's more
Yes.
within complicated ecosystems, trying to create and deal with complicated
Trying to survive mentally in our experience.
Yeah. So I would be careful of only, but often you find large cruxes.
Right.
And those are always good to deal with.
Yep.
Like large pieces, like they have large effects. Yeah.
Right. So investigate. So if you are it's a Buddhism idea that there are many universes of suffering sort of to be in.
Hmm.
Um, and that is a universe of suffering is there are all the universes are kind of happening here, but a universe of suffering is like the unwillingness to feel a thing, and so I run away. So now I'm in a running away universe. So if it's the I have the homework and then I get the anxiety and then I run away and then I smoke the weed, and so I'm in the universe that has this pattern in it, the running away pattern. And it's probably not just one thing in my life I'm running away from. There's probably 10, 20, 100. So, but I've made this choice where I've tuned my consciousness into the running away universe. And there's some kind of suffering in the running away universe. And
I see. So you're in like the universe, like you're in your own reality in such a way where you want to run away from it, and then the reality that you are in is suffering. The reality where you're running away is suffering, and then the reality that you went to is also suffering.
right.
And that's a lot of suffering because that's multiple realities. You don't even necessarily have consciousness across all of them.
Right.
I mean, ultimately you do, but like you might not have memory or ways of communicating across those barrier, like the interdimensional barriers. It sounds weird when we say it, but yeah.
Right. So as I investigate, I start to notice all the rubbish I put myself through, and I start to see through my own bullshit. And I start to choose better options for myself. And also, like, I can see, as soon as I can see that I'm giving myself a worse time, I'd rather take the easier way out. I'd rather deal with the suffering up front than the long scale. This is I say about procrastination. You know, I had the experience where it's not just that I procrastinated for a moment, it's that I used to have a week long, day one, like I'll do it later, day two, maybe I'll do it this evening, day three, I'll get to it later, day four, and I've like spent 4 days avoiding something, watching YouTube videos, whatever.
Yeah.
And then on the evening of day four, it's due tomorrow, I have to do it now.
Yeah.
Whip it together as fast as I can. But I've created 4 days of suffering with that. And this is the thing, only by noticing there's 4 days of suffering on the inside did I start. The first thing I did was I was like, oh, I'm just going to give up. So for 3 days, I just had a nice time, did whatever I liked. And then at the evening of the fourth day, I did whatever I needed to do.
Yeah. I find for me, oh, sorry. Yeah.
A different way again would be to do it on day one and then take 4 days off.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah. I think you're like your general point of figuring out like like minimizing suffering in the situation. I find for me for this stuff often like I'm like, okay, I'll just do it right away. And then I get there and I'm like, I realize I'm not ready to do it. And I don't like maybe emotionally ready also, but also like just orienting ready.
Like mental?
Yeah, like I have
how
to
am I going to solve this problem?
Yeah. Like it's something I actually have to think about for a while. And that does happen to me a bunch. But it's cool when I notice it. If it's something like really, if it's something small, I'm like, okay, it will just show up. But if it's like something big, I'll often do, okay, I'm not like, I actually did this the other day where I'm like, I'm not ready to make a decision. And I let somebody know, hey, I need some time to think about this. And then I'm sitting there and I'm not playing video games because they're not fun anymore. And I'm just like kind of sitting there with this and I'm like looking at my computer. And I'm like, this would be easier if I was outside walking around. And so I just went for a walk and then, just like random adventure. And then I figured it out. And when I came back, I let them know. I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. And it felt good.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's cool. That's because like I've done this cycle so many times, right? Like this is my samsara, my like continuous cycle, so that it's like it's like there's less impulsive decisions going on. It's more like things are more like interconnected and heavier. Not like not heavier per se, but like more weight.
Like grounded.
I find there's things like there's more weight. Like if there's like some like some things that are just like, it's like more mass, and then it takes more to move it, but then once it moves, it keeps going more.
I've described this to you as well with like, I'm pretty stubborn. I'm a like big ship in the sea. When I turn, I turn. When I don't turn, I don't turn.
Yeah.
In terms of motivation towards projects, in terms of what I do.
Yeah. I try not to get attached. So I want to just be floaty.
Mm.
But other things, other things have weight. And so like psychotech, for instance, right? Like is like that has weight. And I'm light, but like moving this or doing something here is, yeah, like it's weighty, and it's more weighty, I think, as we go along. It's
Mm.
less fragile and more weighty. So like I could do more things with it, but it would take more to shift it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about
It also has momentum of its own. So
thinking about what I'm doing internally when I'm like, I'm not ready to move, or I need to wait with this a while. There's something like, I need to make sure that all of me is ready to move when we move.
like getting all your ducks in a row.
Yeah, well, it's a ducks in a row.
I mean that as a metaphor.
Sort
I
of
don't
like
know.
any movement is a commitment to the possible negative side effects of that outcome. Like if I move and I got it wrong, I got to bear the consequences.
Yeah,
And it's not all doom and gloom. It's just that
it's real. It's serious.
right, it's real. And if I'm invested in it, I'm also committed to accepting the consequences of the action. And so I'd rather move myself a bunch of times and check all the options before I like move the external world. And that seems to lead me to, when I do move the external world, it's the right move.
Yeah.
Because internally, the imagination space is as free as the imagined space is. I can just imagine a bunch of stuff, which means that like that's very little cost to me. It costs about as many as a few calories to burn to think about it. And so I can imagine all the options and what I might do and what might happen. And then once I'm done doing that, I can switch to the external world and start acting in the external world and burn the rest of the calories to actually get the mission underway.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the thing we could explore, because there's a lot here in the way in this space, and in the way you're doing it. Or at least the way you're explaining how you're doing it. Because this is like kind of like planning or figuring stuff out before you do it.
Right.
Versus just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And these I think are different strategies, or yeah, these are kind of like different approaches, maybe, or styles. I don't know exactly what to call it.
Ideally, I want a bit of both, right? I want to be able to do stuff and I want to be able to plan. I want both worlds.
Yeah. And yeah. This is interesting. I find I do less planning now.
Mm.
But I have done a lot of planning, a lot of processing.
Yeah.
And I have done a lot of that.
I find that when I plan, that was wrong. Like my plans fall. And then sometimes it's like I scribble out a plan and that's just exactly what I do. Like 10 words on a page sort of plan. And then that is exactly all I needed. I only needed 10 words. I didn't need 3 days of planning and whatever.
Yeah, like in detail. Yeah. I do find when I try to like over detail it, like sort of like bullet points or like major steps. But yeah.
Planning's an interesting one because definitely I had a moment in my journey when I was more of a rationalist. Oh, have I ever told you the spreadsheet thing?
No.
So I used to there was a point in my life when I was like, oh, I should make a spreadsheet about that decision, whichever decision it was. And I should put all the details on the spreadsheet, and I should like rank pros and cons, and I should sort of give it points and try and organize. And then I would make the spreadsheet and I would fiddle with it, and I'd be like, and then I'd fiddle with it a bit more, and I go, I don't like this. And then I'd fiddle with it a bit more. And I did this for a few decisions, and the spreadsheets take several hours of sitting down and fiddling with and trying this and leaning that way and trying that and leaning that way. And eventually I realized that the purpose of the spreadsheet was like, if I am going to make a decision, there's a part of me that already knows where I'm going to go. And the spreadsheet is to convince the rest of me that that's the right idea. And if in this moment I'm on the wrong side of the decision, I will just play with the spreadsheet for even longer until I get to the right choice.
Yeah.
And like it feels wrong. And so I have to fiddle with the spreadsheet more. And then I realized I can just, know the right decision earlier. Yeah. Although sometimes having the spreadsheet and working through it does help find the right decision. But for the most part, I was knowing the answer before, like earlier than the conclusion of this exercise. And I just hadn't convinced myself yet.
Yeah.
So, like rational planning shit.
Yeah, I have a variation on that. Because sometimes it'll happen to me where I know this is the thing I should do, but then the rest of me is not on board with that. And so the way I frame it is, it's just explaining what's going on to the rest of the team.
You're right, internally to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not like in a we have to do this. It's like, hey guys, I think this is what we should do, and let me sit and explain it to you, and deal with all the stuff. And often I find like things come up where I'm like, oh, actually I'm missing a piece of information, or I'm missing a skill, or there's something emotionally I haven't processed,
or I'm worried about it. If I do it, then these things, and that's what's blocking me. Like, okay, kind of address my worry as well. That's part of the journey.
Yeah. And then so it's like, okay, we're gonna do that thing that I knew that I was going to do, but I'm gonna do a couple other things just to like set up the situation so it works out nicely. Yeah, so I like it much better as instead of like trying to convince or like trying to get to the decision. It's like it's a team game. It's co-creative. and then I find what we're like, the other thing is, if like I'm on the whole like I don't want to be attached to the decision, because then I'm not actually open-minded, and I don't want to deny that this is where I want to go, because then I'm just self-denial. So like this way is just very just true. Like, yeah, like there's part of me that's very convinced about this, and then the rest of me isn't, and we need to like figure this out, balance it, and get on the same page. And that happens with like teams and companies and stuff as well, families, like whatever.
Yep. I don't know. Every time I try and do something in the world, I'm like, wow, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Impacting the world is like doing well is a mountain of steps.
Yeah. It's also easy.
Yeah, you just do dumb shit for a while and then you get better.
Like, you don't need steps and all this. Just do this. You want to do a thing, do it.
Right. Yep, definitely. Anyway, maybe that's a good time to
talk
about interesting stuff around addiction. Any last questions about addiction?
Oh yeah, I want to add. I want to say a thing. A line I heard. Addiction. The opposite of addiction is connection. And I think this is sort of like where I'm. Like, I haven't like fully processed this. I've only heard it recently. Which apparently everyone in addiction space knows this. So, it's in like, to me, yeah, like I think you're like, if you keep like, that's sort of like why, like, that's part of why or that's like connecting with the things that I'm saying, where you're finding all these things, like, and you connect yourself to yourself, and you're having like meaning like you're interconnected with other things, and your life is different. Like the addiction stuff kind of I think falls away more, or it's a lot easier to deal with.
Hmm.
But when you get like kind of rigid, or you're like life is a certain way, and then I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but I heard this line and I liked it. And I've been thinking about
My
this
hunch,
line.
or what comes to my mind, is that like when you describe the video games that uh you were a bit depressed or life was not so interesting, and
Yeah.
you were filling the space with your addiction to the video games, and then so you were sort of disconnected from life, and then to reconnect with life and to go like, oh, I'd rather go outdoors, or many of the other options that are available, is to like be less addicted and instead be reconnected to experience in life and the choice to be in the world rather than in the addiction.
Okay, so this I don't reject your frame, but
Yeah,
that's not my frame.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Because like to me, video games is life. Like
Right,
if you're alive and you're playing video games, then that's life.
right. And it is life, and also I'd propose it's like a smaller slice of life. If you, it depends. If you're playing too
Yeah,
much,
it's
or
less
if you're doing too
impactful
much
than
of your,
other things.
you're caught in a smaller slice of life than what is available. and
Yeah.
and usually because I've pushed myself into it, like I'm in a small box of like I'm safer over here with my addiction, and I'd rather be like, if you ask people, this is the
It's
amazing
much
thing.
safer. You can reload save files. Yeah. That's huge. You can't do that in life.
It's gonna if you ask alcoholics what are their problems, they don't usually say the alcohol's the problem. They usually say the alcohol's the solution.
Yeah.
I have an emotional problem, and if I don't drink, then I have all these emotions that I can't deal with. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. The problem, your problem, you don't think the alcohol's the problem, but obviously from the outside, I'm like,
Well, also might not be. Like, I do think there are situations where it's just not. Like, I was
yeah,
watching this interview with the guy who was on heroin, and like, there are actually a couple of them. And like, it really doesn't seem like the heroin is the problem. And like, I don't know, like, they're addicts, so like, they're good at this stuff, but it really didn't seem like the heroin is the problem. It seemed like everything else was the problem.
well, okay, wait a second there, because I've seen this. I've seen this with meth. The drama in my drama experience was connected to meth.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's a way in which people on drugs will spin the story of their life such
Yeah.
that everything else is the problem.
Yeah. I've seen this with manic people,
Right.
like bipolar people. Yeah.
Right. And so
And
I wouldn't even say it's their fault. They're just the frame that they're in, everything else is in their way, and everything else is treating them badly, and everything else is, and this was the fascinating thing about this drama, right? That this person who was the drama was was spinning a quite reasonably convincing tale to me. And I was blind to the fact that the drama, and I was interested in the tale. I was like, this is a fascinating story. How could it be that you have such bad luck? And
yeah.
over a couple
Yeah.
of weeks, I was like, oh, it's not that they have bad luck. It's that they're like twisting their life in such a way that they're basically cursed themselves.
Yeah. I think the split for me, I think I've sort of like crux this out more. The split is like, are you trying to stop using, or are you trying to do something that requires you to stop using?
Mm,
And
right,
like to me, the second thing is much easier than the first thing.
right,
Right. So like if you have a dream, right? Let's just think dreams. Like if you have a dream and your dream is, it doesn't even have to be big, like it's to like get married or to live a normal life or have a kid or whatever, like whatever your dream is. I think these things is like smaller. Or to own your like or to like live clean or whatever, right? Like whatever your dream is, like you're probably not gonna be able to do it if you're using. And then it like it's like you have like when you're there and you're looking at the stuff, you're comparing it to something versus just looking at it in a vacuum saying this is bad.
right.
And I think like you get to still exist. If you have dreams, you exist.
Mm. Well, it's also that if your addiction is preventing you from feeling the negative experience that is the whole of all hell of all of your anxieties and worries and concerns and discomforts in the world, and you're like, oh, I should just drop my defenses and return to that thing, that's not going to be a good time. you need to be like, you need to clear out the rubbish a bunch, which is a lot of therapeutic work potentially. And also you need to replace the rubbish with a good life to return back to.
Yeah.
And you need to, so you need the dream, you need the therapy, and you need to be ready to drop the addiction.
Right, right. And I think the dream kind of acts like a catalyst, right?
Right.
Whatever your dream is that you're working towards, like you're gonna realize that the addiction isn't good, and then you're going to want to stop it.
Mhm.
You're gonna realize your psyche isn't working properly, and so you're gonna get, therapy or psychotech or whatever you do.
Mhm.
You're gonna realize that like spiritually you're devoid, and you're gonna go that path. You realize like physically that you're not doing the thing, like you're not in a good shape, and like your body has a huge impact on you.
Right. Your body is the platform on which your mind rides around the universe.
Yeah.
So if your body is broken, sick, ailing, in pain, then your mind is not really going to have a good time either.
Yeah, like your body is most of you, and if that's not, like, if you're not treating it properly, like you're not, and a lot, and like you find dreams like, like dreams that could take more than a decade,
Mm.
or wherever you start is wherever you start, right? Like, one day at a time is also fine, or the next hour, like, or right, like just 10 seconds, like, whatever it is, wherever you're at, right? Like whatever it is, like that's big for you, that like puts everything else in perspective, and it's like deals with the meaning crisis.
Mm. Hmm.
Psychotechnologies live.